Hi, friends. So, I don't get a chance to see a lot of people in the church. Even when they come in, they're usually here when I'm not here. But luckily, I was here when Carol Dunn was here today, and she asked me if I was still looking for crosses. This is the last week of our cross hunt, and we're going to talk about the last stage in the evolution of prayer for this week, and then next Tuesday we'll start a new theme. And I'm going to take suggestions for what you guys would like to see on my daily video meditation, so consider that. I'm lucky Carol is here because she said, I've got a cross in mind for you. I've been holding it up because I want maybe people to guess. You can't tell me. I can't hear your guesses, of course, because you're way far away from me. But now that you've gotten here, you may have already figured out. This is the cross that was on our steeple quite a few years ago now. I think we took it down 4 years ago, and we got our new cross 2 years ago. So this is part of our heritage, and I'm going to talk to our building and grounds folks, John and Carol and Hank and Sharon, all of our past B&G folks, to see if we can get this up on somewhere, maybe even inside the building. I like to have things that remind us of the past, that we were built on a tradition of love and service. We don't always fully live into that like any other organization, but we are passionate and we try our best. And then when we realize we can do better, we come back together and try to do better. So there's our cross for the day. I'm going to read you a poem and then talk about your prayer practice today. So this is a poem by St. John of the Cross. Without a place and with a place to rest, living darkly with no ray of light, I burn myself away. My soul, no longer bound, is free from the creations of the world. Above itself it rises, hurled into a life of ecstasy, leaning only on God. The world will therefore clarify at last what I esteem of highest grace. My soul revealing it can rest without a place and with a place. Although I suffer a dark night in mortal life, I also know my agony is slight. For though I am in darkness without light, a clear heavenly life I know. For love gives power to my life. However black and blind my day, to yield my soul and free of strife to rest, living darkly with no ray. Love can perform a wondrous labor, which I have learned internally, and all the good or bad in me takes on a penetrating savor, changing my soul so it can be consumed in a delicious flame. I feel it in me as a ray, and quickly killing every trace of light, I burn myself away. Without a place and with a place. We do have a place. And this cross harkens back to how long this place has been around. So we have a place that we can come and be together and be with God, but we know and we've learned during this quarantine that that's not encompassing, doesn't encompass our whole faithful life. We need to be able to spread love and let God into our life as we walk outside of this place, and we can love God and be a follower of Christ even if we didn't have this place. So this poem, I'm not going to read the reflection by the compiler of the group of poems. I just want to say that it speaks to the last stage of the evolution of our prayer life, which is just simply being with God, feeling at one with God. And that is the aim of prayer life according to Father Mark Thibodeau and many Christian mystics throughout the centuries have felt the same, that we want to evolve our prayer practice to culminate in this ability to just be with God. That we move from praying at God, simple prayers. All of these stages can certainly still be used in your daily prayer life. That doesn't mean you have to leave any behind, but you do add the next stage of evolution. You can pray prayers at God, especially if you're busy. You have a moment that you need God. We can pray the Lord's Prayer, creeds, the Psalms. Memorize those. Praying with God, speaking extemporaneously from the heart, very important. Listening to God, doing one of those first two, and then making space for the answer, and listening to the quiet voice of God's will instead of our will. And finally is being with God. That feeling of union. And we're going to practice ways to invite that feeling for the rest of this week. So here is your prayer practice, then I'm going to make some announcements. There's a little kid outside playing on his bike on our little path to the memorial garden. It's refreshing to hear. He's squealing with delight, biking down the slope, and then he turns back and comes back. So here's the prayer practice. So you're going to do 5 minutes. You're going to do 2 signal breaths in the beginning. That's a deep breath in, hold it for 3 seconds, and blow it out slowly for 10 seconds. Do that twice in your armchair. Close your eyes, and just for the last 4.5 minutes or so, I want you to imagine that you are a flower. You are actually a seed. Imagine a seed in your chest, maybe where you feel like your soul may be, this heart, mind, right in the middle of the chest. There's a seed in there. After you do your breathing, I want you to imagine for a solid 4 minutes, set a timer if you need to, or just feel it, that like the sun, God's presence is just permeating your whole being and causing this soul seed to bloom. Imagine how it feels. Imagine the emotions that it are created as you imagine this. It's right here in the soul. Let that presence of God, the feeling of God's presence that permeates your whole body, lead to a sprouting of this seed. And for 4 minutes, just feel it growing. Feel the presence of God like sun on the seed and let it grow. That's it. That's all I want you to do. This letting, this feeling of God is, the goal is to let it lead to doing God's will and not our own egotistic human will. But as it's been characterized by Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant traditions, this idea of doing God's will instead of your own is, it lends itself to this idea of a struggle. Like people have struggled and you have to suffer and do it, but there is a path that Jesus talks about the burden is light. He came to give life and life abundantly. That letting God's will into you instead of holding on to your own will out of fear, out of competition or judgment, that there is a joy to it. That is the promise, that it's not, although suffering is unavoidable in this life, and we see that God, in the form of Jesus, suffered for us, there is a way to let God's will billow the sails of our lives that lead to this a joy of not having to worry about how we're seen and judging others and how much what's in our bank account and all these things that we keep us up at night. That this idea of being with God makes us larger. So practice that. We'll be talking about that for Wednesday and Thursday. I'll make an announcement about this again reminding you, and we'll send out letters to folks that aren't on the computer. But I'm going to take an extended break. I've been feeling real crispy, and I'm going to, the conference of the UCC has created a recorded worship for this Sunday, the 17th, so pastors can take a few days off in a row. So this cross hunt and the evolution of prayer practice will end on Thursday. That's the day after tomorrow, and then we'll pick up with another series of video meditations when I return on Tuesday morning. I'll record one of those. So please tell me, comment on this, send me an email, call me. Tell me what you'd like to talk about or hear me talk about for a 10-minute-ish video meditation every day. I love you guys. Thank you again, everybody that came out for the food drive. I filled up my entire car and dropped it off at the food pantry today. And the final number was not $320, it was $420. $420 and a car filled to the brim with food. So blessings on all of you that came out. It was wonderful to see you. We're going to do something like that again, end of May, beginning of June, and keep listening to decide when, while we hammer out when we're going to meet again. Ned Lamont's opening some stuff up on May 20th. UCC conference is suggesting the earliest is June 7th to have in-person worship. So we'll keep you abreast of our decision in that regard. So there you have it. I gave a lot. You can start this over and listen to all the information again. But I'll see you tomorrow, and I love you, and God loves you. Bye.